Good morning, afternoon or evening, and welcome to Faction Overview number 10. That's right, we've hit double figures. Now, it was actually 18 months ago that I sat down to first have a look at the Spartans, and so this has been a long project. But with just a few factions left to look at, it seems an opportune opportunity to check out arguably the most famous of all the ancient civilizations in the game, the post-Republic Roman Empire. Now, the Romans were incredibly influential, and their impact is felt all across the modern world in terms of construction, transportation, warfare, and even etymology. So, what does the game's version of these elite conquerors contain? First up is that they have a 10% armor bonus when fighting on their own territory. So, if you can bring the enemy to you, you can try to overwhelm your opponent, get them to stretch themselves, and then hit with a hard counterattack. Which brings us to point 2. You can make that counterattack using the best shot cavalry in the game, spear cavalry. These are fantastic for harassing your opponent's farmers and are probably the best counter to camel archers that there are. But their skills are also useful just in any phase of the game. Overall, they're a top draw unit. The third big element is that unlike other factions, expansion is not as important in order to maintain supply lines of soldiers to the front lines, as they can build a few structures outside of their own territory, including within your opponent's territory. Now talk about the element of surprise. Although they do have great positives, the Romans have one big lack: range units that aren't siege. So get ready to get down and dirty with your opponent at all costs, as your range units are both skirmishers with minimal range distance. And finally, if you're looking for unique upgrades that will give you an advantage over your enemies, then think again. The number that they have is just the 1. However, your legionnaires do have access to an exciting formation, so we'll use the usual upgrades section to go over that as well, so it doesn't feel quite so abandoned. And that's the big things right there. Let's get on with finding out a little more about the units that they have. So the Romans start with a swordsman and a skirmisher, which is not ideal for defending against cavalry rushes, so your aforementioned lancer cavalry is going to be essential for an effective defence. However, because of that unit's attacking potential, it's far more likely that you're actually going to be going after your enemy than needing to repel their attacks. Those lancer cavalry are also the best hunters that there are, as they never miss their shot like skirmishers or archers. The only exception to this is if they're attacking elephants, who tend to kill them before they die. Now come phase 2, you're going to get access to a skirmisher cavalry and a spearman, and you would have noticed that this means there is no long range infantry or cavalry for you and no slingers. Now this is the Romans' big weakness. If someone manages to keep you at arm's length during phase 1 and 2, it can be a long way back. This makes playing aggressively with the lancer cavalry so important to successful play, unless you can make it to a serene stage 3 and then begin your siege assault. Unique buildings are few and far between for the Romans, but one of them is probably a contender for best building in the game. So before we look at that though, let's check out the other useful and, if somewhat unexciting, option available. Now the first of these is the Temple of Vesta, and it's a temple. It's almost identical to the other temple that's also available at phase 2. It trains the same healers, it offers the same upgrades, it costs 300 stone, and it takes the same amount of time to build. The only difference is that it offers a 50% loyalty regeneration bonus to all buildings within 75 meters. Now this can make it really useful on the front line, in that it can help you to keep hold of an advanced fortress or civic centre when otherwise it would be in serious danger. Now you can only make one though, so make sure you put it in the area that you're going to find it most useful. Now the next two structures are linked in that they can both only be built in neutral or enemy territory, which is a little bit counterintuitive to say the least, as it actually disincentivizes territorial expansion. Still, let's have a look. Now first up are your siege walls. These are pretty fantastic. They only cost wood to build and can be garrisoned. In fact, they lose loyalty if they're not garrisoned, so really they need to be garrisoned. Their main use is that built in the right places, they allow you to securely attack the area around crucial resources inside your enemy's territory, causing untold damage to their economy. The embedded military camp has a good case for being the best in the game. Available at phase 3, it costs 500 wood and 200 metal, which makes it a bargain. It can create all the citizen soldier types available except for your javelin cavalry, and on top of that it gives you access to all of the siege weapons, which we'll be looking at in a second. Now the fact that it can be stuck deep in your opponent's territory and send wave after wave of soldiers and siege weapons right into their heart can make it an incredible resource. The fact that it also takes half the time to construct as a fortress and doesn't require stone just adds it and makes it more amazing. What this means is that if you're willing to forego a hero for a little while, then the stone that you've saved will actually buy you 4 additional catapults. Now anyway, you don't need to take my word for it. Use it and see for yourself. It's a deadly building that just takes a little bit of retraining of your brain and your instincts to make the most of. Now, to be blunt, the siege weapons you have are the 3 best ones: catapults, rams and bolt throwers. I assume you know how to use these, so we won't focus on them too much. Suffice to say, they can be obtained from the military camp that we've just mentioned, as well as the fortress, which is pretty handy, and it allows rams to be packed with infantry and sent into the heart of your opponent's base pretty easily. And that's probably the most important thing to say in this section, so let's move on. Now we'll look at upgrades a little earlier than usual, as it's going to be slightly different to normal. This is because Civil Line Books is your only unique upgrade. Now it offers a 25% increase in vision range, and this can be a useful bonus, but it has to be said that it doesn't compare too favourably when looked at alongside some other civilizations' unique upgrade offering. And that was it for upgrades. So let's have a look at something similar instead, just to pad out this section. So it's going to be the Testudo Formation, which is an interesting bonus that's only available to Romans. It can be used with all melee infantry soldiers in groups of 9 or more. Now what does it do, I hear you ask? Well, it slows them down substantially, but that's not the bonus. It also increases their armour by a large amount. Now this can make them a really effective meat shield against massed range troops, as they draw fire from your low range skirmishers who can then support the attack from behind them. And so what to say about the champions? Well, they're both swordsmen is one thing. One goes on a horse and one goes on foot. The cavalry can be really important anti-siege weapons and are useful being stored in advanced buildings to take out any rams that come near the structure. They can then duck back inside once they've done their job. They can also be used as a late game attack to destroy an enemy's farmers or traders, but my preference is to use them primarily defensively, and that's simply because I'm paranoid about losing my CC to a simple ram attack. Now the infantry are your standard infantry champion swordsmen, but they have limited use unfortunately, as they're not able to take advantage of the formation bonus that's on offer with the Testudo, and that's a real shame. So therefore, overall I consider the horsemen to be essential, especially if you're facing rams, while the infantry I could pretty much take or leave, although I can see how they could still be a nice addition to a full-scale assault. Now the only other thing to mention is that it is possible to get them trained in the barracks, but in order to do so you're going to need to pay 1,000 metal, so make sure you have a fistful of dollars going before you invest in this. In a weird twist, all of the Roman heroes are cavalry swordsmen, so even though in my opinion they're the best heroes around, although elephants are pretty cool, I would like to see a bit more variety. Now the main thing I like about cavalry sword heroes is they have loads of health and they're super mobile. Now this means if you want to disrupt your opponent, you could start hacking his women that are farming around the CC to death, and the arrows from the CC will barely touch the hero. This means you can effectively stop your enemy's food production later in the game. Now if you can do this early enough, then he has to reroute some spearmen to help out the defence, and that actually leaves his front line open to a siege and range infantry assault. So that's all good, but anyway, let's look at their bonuses. These are quite varied in both what they do and their usefulness. Now first up we have Marcus Marcellus, and he'll give you a plus 15% attack bonus within 60 metres and also reduce your enemy infantry's attack by 10% within 30 metres. Now this is useful if heavily involved in frontline fighting alongside other cavalry and can really help against spearmen. Now second on my list is my personal favourite, Quintus Fabius Maximus. He offers all structures and units everywhere plus 1 armour, and it's the fact that it has no range that makes this such a great bonus. And finally we have Scipio Africanus, who gives plus 20% and plus 2 capture points for all soldiers and siege engines within 30 metres. This makes him a great option going forward, leading the charge against critical enemy buildings and siege weapons, and he can even help to capture those, particularly catapults. And that was the Romans' available units and structures, so why not now have a look at what kinds of things you might want to do with those. If the map allows, then try and base your food economy on your Lancer cavalry. It can kill off your enemy's chances very early on. By making small raids on key resources, you can critically stunt your opponent's economic growth. Then, after causing your disruption, you simply run your cavalry home, grabbing a deer or two on the way, giving you more food to train more cavalry. As an addendum to the last point, don't think you can sit there and develop normally and just keep up with your enemy. You're very susceptible to range attacks until phase 3, so it's best to be the one doing the attacking rather than the defending. And as difficult as it may be to not follow your instincts, if you hit phase 3, then not having territory can paradoxically actually be more dangerous for your enemy. The military camp doesn't have a territory aura, so it can't be seen on the minimap in the way that a normal CC expansion can. So, you can position it at your enemy's rear, and when he least suspects it, just send in some skirmishers and a handful of rams and completely destroy his economy. And if you're keen on keeping your military camp well defended, then those siege walls with skirmishers on top, and behind which sit bolt throwers and catapults, can be deadly for factions that lack long-range siege. And on those siege walls, a nice little trick, particularly in longer games, is to use them to kill off trade routes. A few well-placed walls and towers can cause big problems for your enemy. And that's overview number 10 done. Now at this point I think number 11 will be the Ptolemies, and that's because I'm still working out the best way to cover the two Celtic factions. They're just so similar that I don't think they need specific videos, one for each. So my current thoughts are that there will still be 2 videos, but one instead will be on the things they have in common, and another on how they're different. And hopefully that will avoid a lot of the repetition. So how does that sound? Let me have a low in the comments, and that would be really helpful. Other than that, if you could like, subscribe, ring the bell, do all those other things, that would be awesome. And if you're not yet subscribed, then ask yourself why not. There are currently more than 750 people that are, and while I don't condone it, they are probably talking about you behind your back. So if you want that to stop, or know what they're saying, then you know what to do. Anyway, as always, obrigado e adeus e boa sorte com os romanos.